Mark McCann just drove his Bugatti Veyron for the very first time. Not a test drive. Not a slow roll around a car park with a technician holding his hand. The first time, ever, in his own car. And what makes that moment extraordinary isn't just the car. It's everything that had to happen first. 6 months of the car sitting split in two. A full year of independent gearbox rebuilding. A parts supplier that refused to sell him a single nut and bolt. And a team of specialists who simply refused to give up. This is how Mark McCann got his Veyron moving again, without Bugatti lifting a finger to help. After Pascal at KMP Powertrains spent a full year reverse engineering clutch plates that Bugatti wouldn't supply, the rebuilt gearbox finally made its way back to Falongas. If you haven't heard of Falongas, you should have. These are Bugatti specialists who've restored everything from Lamborghini Countachs to Ferrari 288 GTOs worth upwards of £5 million. If anyone could put this car back together properly, it was them. But before a single bolt went back in, they found a problem. A seal was sweating. Not catastrophic, not gushing, just a faint trace of moisture around one specific point on the gearbox. And here's the thing, it was a Bugatti-specific seal. Which means sourcing a replacement wasn't straightforward. Actually, it wasn't possible at all through normal channels. The team made a judgment call. Every Veyron they'd ever worked on showed a similar mist around that exact seal area during normal operation. It might just be how these gearboxes behave. They greased the shaft, aligned the master spline with millimeter precision, and pushed forward. Because they'd already come this far, and turning back would mean dismantling everything they'd already done. Then, during oil tank reassembly, Chris from Falongas spotted something else. A tiny drip from one of the cooler lines. He traced it back quickly, a failed O-ring. A small rubber seal. Worth less than £1. It sounds minor. It absolutely wasn't. Here's why, that O-ring can only be accessed when the car is split in half. If they'd missed it, sealed everything up, and driven the car away, that tiny seal failing a month later would have meant tearing the entire Veyron apart all over again. Weeks of work, undone by a part that costs pennies. And according to Mark, a main Bugatti dealer probably wouldn't even sell the O-ring on its own. They'd push for a full pipe assembly replacement, a fix worth pennies becoming a repair bill worth thousands. That's before we even get into what splitting a Veyron costs in labor. They caught it. They fixed it. And that small moment of thoroughness potentially saved the entire project. For 6 months, the Veyron had lived in two halves. The team had given them names, Vi and the back end, Ron. Now, finally, it was time to make them whole again. Falongas built their own version of Bugatti's specialized alignment trolley using basic workshop equipment. Mark described the result as somewhere between bin wheels and SpaceX. It wasn't pretty. It worked. Every single connection had to be perfect. Fuel lines, coolant hoses, electrical cables, titanium crash bolts, designed specifically to shear during an impact, protecting the chassis at the cost of themselves. Chris put it bluntly, there are probably 1,000 parts on this car that are simply irreplaceable. Every one of them had to go back in correctly, first time. After careful alignment, checking measurements repeatedly, confirming both halves sat perfectly parallel, the team slowly pushed the two sections together, using nothing but patience and manpower. No Bugatti alignment rig. No factory support. Just experienced hands and a steady nerve. And just like that, for the first time in years, the Veyron sat on 4 wheels as one complete car. Here's a detail that still feels almost unbelievable. Mark had never seen it like this before. He'd owned this car for months. He'd watched it get dismantled, shipped, and rebuilt. But he had never once sat in the driver's seat. There were still 2 parts missing before the car could run. A titanium spline nut and an engine mount bolt. Not cosmetic pieces. The titanium nut helps hold the 2 halves of the car together. The engine mount bolt secures the powertrain itself. Both are structural. Both are critical. So Mark called Bugatti. Not asking for an engine. Not asking for a gearbox. Not asking for anything complex or expensive. Just a nut and a bolt. Bugatti's response? Bring the entire car to us, or you get nothing. Mark consulted his barrister to check whether Bugatti's blanket refusal was even legal. The answer was nuanced. Technically yes, Franchise dealers are contractual bound by manufacturer policy, and there's no direct legal contract between Bugatti and a used car owner. But the barrister also noted that the motor ombudsman could potentially get involved, describing the blanket refusal as potentially unreasonable. Even the dealer seemed uncomfortable with it. Their response: "It's Bugatti policy. It's not our policy." That one sentence says a lot. The dealer knew it didn't look great. They just had no choice but to enforce it. To be fair to Bugatti, there are real reasons manufacturers restrict parts access: liability, safety, protecting the integrity of complex systems. A W16 quad-turbo engine isn't something you want amateur hands inside. But a titanium spline nut? A single bolt? At some point, the policy stops protecting the car and starts just frustrating its owner. The team sourced the fasteners elsewhere and pressed on anyway. While the missing parts were being hunted down, there was still an entire cooling system to verify. A Veyron doesn't have one radiator. It has 10. 3 engine water cooling radiators. 3 air-to-liquid intercoolers for the turbos. 1 engine oil radiator. 1 transmission oil radiator. 1 differential oil radiator. And 1 air conditioning condenser. 10 separate systems, all managing the heat generated by a quad-turbocharged W16 engine pushing over 1,000 horsepower. The car had been sitting exposed for a long time. Nobody knew whether any of those radiators had developed leaks. So the team used vacuum filling, drawing negative pressure through the entire cooling system. If the pressure held steady, there were no leaks anywhere. The gauge didn't move. Not a flicker. Across all 10 radiators, across dozens of connections, the system held perfectly. Coolant went in, a lot of it, and every drop stayed exactly where it should. No leaks. After everything this car had been through, that felt like the first real sign that luck was finally turning. Exhaust fitted. Brakes bled. Battery connected. The car was ready. The team's biggest concern going into the first start wasn't the engine. It was the clutch kiss point, the precise moment where the clutch engages and starts driving the car forward. That setting had been calibrated for the original clutch material. Pascal's reverse-engineered plates could behave completely differently. Nobody knew exactly where the engagement point would be. Worst case, the car could lurch unexpectedly. So it was positioned well away from anything valuable, including, as it happened, 2 Ferrari F40s sitting nearby. Nobody wanted any surprises near those. First attempt. The gearbox pressure pump activated. The accumulators held pressure. No fuel leaks appeared. The engine fired. Everything came alive. Chris walked Mark through the gear pattern. First gear straight across. Reverse through neutral. The entire team stepped back. And Mark, who had spent months watching this car get dismantled, rebuilt, questioned, and fought over, selected first gear for the very first time. The Veyron moved forward. Not a roll. Not a push. Under its own power. Driving. Working. Alive. But forward was only half the test. The whole reason this saga started was the reverse gear. That was the fault that began everything. The gearbox fault Bugatti had declared unrepairable, the problem that sent this car on a year-long journey through independent workshops and reverse-engineered clutch plates. Mark shifted through neutral and selected reverse. The car moved backwards. The entire team erupted. Think about what just happened. A car that arrived split in 2 halves. A gearbox Bugatti called unrepairable. Clutch components that had to be reverse-engineered from scratch because the manufacturer wouldn't sell them. 2 fasteners that a million-pound hypercar's own brand refused to supply. All of it overcome by independent specialists, working with patience, skill, and a willingness to figure it out when the official answer was no. Bugatti makes extraordinary cars. The Veyron is still one of the most remarkable machines ever built. 10 radiators, a W16 engine, engineering that borders on the insane. But the way they handle owners outside the official network? That's a different story. Mark's Veyron drives forward. It drives in reverse. And Bugatti's contribution to making that happen was refusing to sell him a nut and bolt.